Now, before you go making your final decision to move to Prescott, Arizona, let's offer you an alternative. There could be another place that you want to check out first, and maybe you'll find that it is the right place for you, and that is St. George, Utah, where we are right now. So what we're going to do in this video is we're just going to compare the two areas, and maybe you're going to want to come out here and check it out for yourself. So let's just start off with just like overall population. That tends to give you an idea of like what a place is kind of like. So these two cities, St. George, Utah, and the metropolitan area, and Prescott, Arizona, they're fairly similar. Prescott is a little bit smaller. I think the metro population of St. George is about 180,000 at the time of this recording, and Prescott is about 130,000, so a little bit smaller in terms of the metro areas.
And importantly, they both have Costco's. So that tells you that the population has to be at least a certain threshold of size, because obviously if it's too small, you're not gonna have your Costco's, and that's gonna make me and a lot of other people very sad.
Yes, Costco, it's kind of a barometer that we use in terms of places to live, because it does offer you some convenience that maybe you won't get in certain areas.
And it's indicative of what other experiences you'll have, right? Because obviously if it's too low of a population, you don't have the big box stores, at least in mass, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And whereas St. George has a plethora of big box stores. I mean, almost all of them are located here. Your Home Depots, your Lowe's, your Walmarts, of course, your Targets, your Best Buys, all that stuff you have here.
Yeah, and then let's talk about overall location. So St. George is in southern Utah, and that is different than northern Utah. Southern Utah has a climate that's very similar to Las Vegas, so we have very hot summers, very mild winters. Similarly to Prescott, Arizona, which is kind of like in the middle of the state. Our weather, I would say, like Prescott is definitely colder in the summer, but it still gets hot, not as hot as here, and it's colder in the winter, but not super cold or anything like that. It's not like Chicago or, places like that, right? It's colder than here, but nothing like horrible, I would say.
And but at St. George, what you have is that you definitely don't dip as cold as Prescott does in general. So we might get a dusting of snow in the winter, but that's about it. And you don't really get like actual legitimate rainfall in general. Obviously, you have those outlier occasions, but mostly just if there is snow, it's gonna be a dusting, and it's gonna melt off like within an hour or two.
Yeah, and both metro areas are very similar in terms of how close they are to a major city. So we're about an hour and 45 minutes outside of Las Vegas, and similarly, Prescott is about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes outside of Phoenix. So similar distance to large metro areas.
Yeah, and what we found is that even though these are pretty decent sized population centers, it has a lot of things at your fingertips. You don't have everything, right? And that's where those mega metropolis areas will offer those. Whereas, of course, you have Phoenix that does that, and it fills in those gaps. We over here have Las Vegas that fills in those gaps as well.
Yeah, the way I kind of explain it is, one Christmas I needed to have a nice dress. There really wasn't anything around here that I was happy with in terms of, what I wanted to buy, so I had to go down to Las Vegas.
Yeah, she needed a Louis Vuitton dress, and so, what could you do?
No, I literally spent like $20 on it, but it had to be from like a certain store, which we don't have here, so.
So before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Dezad.
And I'm Courtney Dezad, and we are licensed real estate agents here in the state of Utah.
And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love St. George. I love the Red Rocks. I love Zion. I want to be right next to it. I want to hold it. I want to kiss it. But the problem is that I'm not local. I may be even out of state, so I don't know what to do. And I totally get that. That's why you reach out to us so we can have that conversation, really get specific about what you're looking for. And we work with a team that has over 40 years of experience in the St. George region. So we have someone always available for you to, give you virtual tours of the property, and not only the property, but also the neighborhoods. You really get a good sense of what's going on out there. So that way, when you do come here, your time is spent super efficiently. So what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us. And remember, the team that we work with here in Utah has over 40 years of experience, so don't forget to call us or text us. And then let's talk about elevation, because I don't know, as I've gotten older, I do notice elevation more, like in terms of how quickly I recover and how I sleep and how much sleep I need. So elevation in Prescott is a little bit over 5,000, and here in St. George is about 2,700. Very similar in Vegas, again, like Vegas is about 2,700 elevation, and that's what we are here.
And obviously that's what leads to the weather differences being what they are. Like obviously Prescott, you will get about 5 or 6 inches of snow per year, whereas here you'll get
like non-existent.
Like a quarter inch or something.
Yeah.
Barely anything.
Yeah. Now let's talk about another important issue that a lot of people ask us about, and that is healthcare access. What is healthcare like? So here in Utah itself has very highly ranked healthcare when you look at a bunch of different lists. Let's say like U.S. News and World Report or Wallet Hub. Utah is usually very high. I think number 7 now in U.S. News and World Report, and we're actually the number 1 state in U.S. News and World Report, and they base it off of crime and corrections, education, healthcare, natural environment, economy, fiscal stability, and infrastructure and opportunity. So Arizona ranks number 24 for healthcare, but you probably want to know like your immediate access, right? So we don't know that much about Prescott, Arizona, but we can tell you that here in St. George, Utah, you have access to very, very highly rated healthcare. Our hospital here is one of only, I think, 5 or 6 hospitals in the whole state of Utah that is ranked on U.S. News and World Report. I guess it's a list that's really hard to get onto because it has to meet certain criteria. So our hospital does meet that criteria. It's very highly ranked. We see people, from Nevada coming up here.
Arizona.
And from Arizona, we see license plates coming up here to use that particular facility. So that's something that we think is, a very big asset to this area.
Yeah, Intermountain Hospital here is basically, I would say, anywhere, like depending on the years, like 2nd or 3rd ranked in the entire state.
Yeah, and there's so they base it off of like 60 hospitals that they rank, but only I think 6 even made the list, right? And similarly, when they look at Arizona, I think out of 115 hospitals, so this is U.S. News and World Report ranking it, only 7 made the list in Arizona, and they're all in like the Phoenix metro area. So correct me if I'm wrong, like we're not experts on Prescott and we're just offering St. George as an alternative.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I don't know if they have like as highly ranked as a hospital as we do here, but I could totally be wrong. So, but that's just something in terms of here, we have good access to healthcare. So now let's talk about cost of living. So we like to use bestplaces.net, and St. George is overall, I think, almost exactly the same, but housing prices is like slightly lower than Prescott, Arizona. Of course, you're gonna get some variations depending on whether you're like in exactly St. George or maybe an outside city. Same goes with Prescott, like it's different whether you're actually in Prescott or maybe some of the like outskirts areas.
Yeah, and then like what they use for this kind of criteria is that, like, yeah, it's on a scale of like, 100 is the national average, right, kind of thing. And then what you have is that they're taking stuff into account, like housing, of course. They're taking into account groceries. They're taking into account miscellaneous stuff. They're taking into account utilities, transportation, healthcare, all those things they kind of put together as far as to kind of give you a baseline sense of what your cost of living would be.
Yeah, so both areas are a little bit higher than national average.
But not dramatically so.
But not dramatically in terms of overall, although both areas are, significantly higher in terms of housing costs. So.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the lifestyle. So definitely both areas are very similar in terms of very outdoorsy, right? There's lots of opportunities for beautiful landscapes. That's one of the reasons people move out here to St. George is just how nice and beautiful it is. You can be outside.
Year round,
365 days out of the year, even when it's super hot. So, similar to Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, so what we have is that so obviously year round, obviously the winters are a little bit cooler, like in Prescott. Winters in St. George are actually pretty great, and then obviously the falls and springs are incredible. And then the summers in St. George are definitely hotter than Prescott, but what you do have, like as far as an opportunity though, is that you can get a lot of your activities done in the morning before it starts to heat up, because the heat, I would say, kind of starts around about 11-ish or so, and kind of persists like throughout the whole day. So, like in those afternoons, if you want to do stuff, you're probably going to go in the pool because it's still going to remain hot.
Yeah.
But like the mornings when you want to do your pickleball or do your hiking, running, cycling, that kind of stuff, you just get that out of the way in the morning.
Yeah. So in terms of access to airports, both Prescott and St. George have small regional airports, and if you're going to have to travel, someplace internationally or something,
or across the country.
Or, well, I don't know. I guess it just depends. Like, it depends on where you're going. But, if you've got a big trip that you're planning, you're definitely going to go to Vegas if you're here. And then, you're probably going to go to Phoenix if you're in Prescott. So, very similar.
Yeah, similar feel. Yeah, for sure.
Now, let's talk about crime and safety statistics. So, we just want to give the caveat that, we can't tell you what is safe to you because it's so personal. So, we're just going to point you to some statistics and then, you want to come out and check it out for yourself, right?
Yeah, and that's what I always recommend to clients is that when you're coming out, and let's say you're interested in a neighborhood or a specific property, you go out there multiple times a day, and in the evening, kind of get a real good feel about that because it is so subjective. Like what I might feel is safe, you might feel like, is unsafe, and vice versa. Very subjective, but at the same time, we do have statistics, right, that we do lean on to give people at least a blanket overview, and then within that, they make the decision what makes sense for them.
Yeah, so we'll just point you to niche.com if you look at the crime statistics for St. George versus the crime statistics for Prescott, Arizona. St. George does have better crime and safety
Numbers, I guess.
Although it's always hard to compare different states because it's like, different police departments report crimes differently. Like, it's just really hard.
Yeah.
So it's, you can look at the numbers, but we always recommend, like, you come out and check for yourself.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about schools. So both St. George and Prescott have universities. So Prescott has Embry-Riddle, which I guess is a big, like, technical aeronautical university, and here in St. George we have Utah Tech. But then if you just talk about regular public education,
like K through 12.
K through 12. So if you're just going basically off of U.S. News and World Report in terms of how they rank all the states, so Utah ranks number 5 for education out of all 50 states, and Arizona ranks number 45. So
yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the schools in Arizona, so I don't really know. And then in terms of living in Utah, you might wonder about like the alcohol question. Like we have kind of interesting liquor laws here.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Do you want to explain?
Yeah, so obviously this kind of like segues into like, I know that people do ask about, like, let's say more, like the Church of Latter-day Saints and that kind of thing. So basically, as far as the alcohol aspect is concerned, it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit different in that you do have bars, you do have restaurants with full bars, you have breweries, that kind of thing. Not nearly as prevalent as almost everywhere else, but they do exist in, like, especially the downtown area. You have a lot of it. And then obviously liquor stores, you don't actually have your normal mom and pop shop liquor stores. You have these state sponsored liquor stores or state licensed liquor stores where if they're open at, like, it's a little bit more expensive. There's not as many of those around. You don't have like a normal 7-Eleven in every corner that kind of offers you a bunch of liquor options. And in fact, in grocery stores, they don't actually sell anything harder than really beer. Like there's a certain alcohol level content. So even you're not getting wine from Costco, from the grocery stores. That's where you would go to these state liquor stores.
And then people always ask us the question, kind of like elephant in the room, which is, obviously you can Google it for yourself. There's a very high population of people who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so people wonder, like, what's it like to live in Utah if you're not a member? We are not members, and I've honestly found that it's like a non-issue. Of course, this is like personal,
very subjective,
anecdotal experience. Like, I feel like people think it's a bigger issue than it is. And when we moved here, we asked Sean's best friend, who lived here for a long time and raised his kids here,
and he's not.
And I was like, so what's it like? And he was like, I literally have never had a problem. So
yeah, so like, anecdotally speaking, we've had, again, it's just been like a non-issue, and so that's obviously, again, but everyone's gonna have a different experience, of course.
For sure.
And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of Utah, so as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us. And remember, the team that we work with here in Utah has over 40 years of experience, so don't forget to call us or text us.